it. But no, he has to carry on, maybe because he has an attorney that's saying, hey, why don't you float me another couple, $3 million, and I'll see if I can stretch this out and get thrown out. I mean, that might be what's happening.
What good? Well, first of all, what good? This whole process doesn't make sense to me because even if he gets it thrown out, the damage is already done. It's obvious he got caught. They say they have videotapes, so that's pretty much it. Maybe sometimes when you have a ton of money, you just don't think the rules apply to you. You ever heard of that?
Maybe when you have a ton of money, you buy other people jets so they can miss a shot.
Yeah. No, chunk it in the water.
That too.
It wasn't good enough just to fly the green. He said, just put it in the water. And that's, that's like shaving points, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a ref that did that. I wonder how many airplanes they got.
Well, what I'm thinking is, okay, you're sitting there and you get your offer, and they say, and you make some ridiculous thing. You actually open your mouth and say, all right, I'll take $100 million. And he goes, okay, I got that. What do you do then? You chunk it in the water.
Right. And then you fly it to Disneyland. I mean, what else could there be?
I need help. I know this theory is just going to get you in trouble, but all right.
Not going to get me in trouble.
I thought I'd have some fun because I was amazed. It was an amazing. Can't describe it. It's one of those moments. And like I told you when we started today, I've covered sports for this if I would be if I was working very much, with 42 years. And I still say of all the great things I've seen, all the heavyweight fights I've seen, and I saw Foreman knock out Moore, and I saw all these great things. Still, the biggest moment was that day at Augusta National when Jack won his sixth-ring jacket. And I've been everywhere. There's not a sporting event I haven't seen.
And that was legitimate, too. That was legitimate. Hey, Ellen, listen, we're running on time here. Take about 30 seconds. Take about 30 seconds and tell everybody about following your cause and purpose and how to follow you. Go ahead.
Okay, just everybody's simple. It's Alan Massengale, and I'm on Facebook, ALAN, Massengale, 2 S's, ENGALE, Massengale. And on Twitter, and you'll see me on Instagram, and it's about, I'm going to write this week about Scope-A-Dope is the thing I've started from the grassroots to educate people about getting a colonoscopy and not being a dummy or a dope like I was, because it's cost me dearly, and I don't want to see it happen to anybody. No one should go through this stuff. Okay, Sal?
All right, that sounds great. Alan, thanks for joining us today, and of course, you're always welcome back.
Talk about it.
Hey, you're always welcome back here on the circus, because it's a circus, and we prove it every day. So for Alan Massengale, I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. So until then, so long, everyone. Customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
It's time for Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews, a show about successful aging, helpful services, and simplifying the complicated with practical solutions. And now, here's your host, Barbara Matthews.
Welcome to Age of Being 2020. a program dedicated to overcoming the challenges of aging and saving money. This is a new show. My name is Barbara Matthews. I've worked in senior care for 20 years, mostly in the Inland Empire. Through the years, I've seen some senior care services get better, and I've seen other health and senior care services get worse and much more expensive. I'm going to talk about all of it. I want to help you and your family find good care, affordable care. I want to simplify the complicated, and I want to put your children's minds at peace, knowing you are okay. My subject today affects everyone, seniors, their children, and their grandchildren. Half of all adults over the age of 65 will spend time in a skilled nursing home before they die. I'm going to say that again. Half of all seniors over the age of 65, that means you or your husband or you or your neighbor. Can you and your family afford the $86,000 a year for a semi-private room in a skilled nursing facility? This is called long-term care, and Medicare doesn't pay for it. Families pay for it. Now, I'm not suggesting long-term care insurance. Only 7 million people in the entire country have long-term care insurance. I'm suggesting a federal government program, Medicaid, or Medi-Cal, as we call it here in the state of California. Those programs do pay for long-term care. Fortunately for all of us and for our pocketbooks and the pocketbooks of our children and grandchildren, I have a guest today who, for 25 years, has helped thousands of seniors understand their Medicare and their Medi-Cal rights and use these programs to help structure payment for necessary medical care. It's called Medi-Cal planning. Let me introduce our guest, Craig Smedley. Craig Smedley received his bachelor's degree in finance from Weber State University. He moved his family to Southern California in 1988, and in 1994 began focusing his business career on Medi-Cal planning. He and his wife, Jana, have 5 children and 10 grandchildren. He has stood on the top of the tallest mountain in California. I don't know if he was helping someone with Medi-Cal planning up there. Mount Whitney, he's been to the top of Mount Whitney. He has descended into the Grand Canyon multiple times, and he has hiked the entire Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico to Canada. I will share with you something else. I've called him before and found him somewhere in the wilderness on the Appalachian Trail. So have you finished hiking the Appalachian Trail, Craig?
Actually, I have not. I've not even started the Appalachian Trail, but I would hope to someday, or the Continental Divide.
Well, welcome, Craig. I'm so glad you're here today to help us save money and our children's money and our grandchildren's money and understand how we can deal with this very challenging situation of paying for long-term care. So first of all, with the question, what is Medi-Cal planning?
Well, Medi-Cal planning comes into play when you have to have an advocate helping you through the system. If the social workers at the Department of Public Social Services did their job in the best interest of the community, I wouldn't be needed. But because they don't, I'm needed to support and help and assist families through a maze of questions, pitfalls that purposely put in their way to try to trip them up and disqualify them.
So it's a tricky process, difficult, challenging process. Let me ask you this. You know, usually we think of Medicaid and Medi-Cal being associated with people who are disabled or perhaps low income. A lot of seniors fall into this category. Can it help people in the middle class?
Well, it should, because very quickly those middle class can use up all their resources and end up with nothing. The most I've ever seen a family spend down on long-term care was about $5 million. It took over 12 years, but their son was lucky to receive about $30,000 at the end of 12 years.
Oh my goodness, $5 million. There's a statistic from the federal government. In 2016, Medicaid spent $167 billion on Medicaid services for folks. And I recently read a statistic that seniors, it's often said, are house rich and cash poor. In fact, the median amount of non-residential, non-real estate wealth that the typical senior owes is $71,000. Well, how much long-term care will that buy?
If you're in a skilled nursing home, that doesn't even get you a year.
Okay, so we really need to hear what you have to say about this. One of the things that is disappointing when I think about seniors who have served in the military, have worked all of their lives contributing to the community, I'm quite startled to learn that today 1 out of every 7 seniors lives in poverty in the United States. That's fully just under 15% of all seniors. It's disappointing. And how would they proceed? What would be their next steps if there is a situation where they need long-term care? You mentioned skilled nursing facilities a moment ago. Why would a family consider using a skilled nursing facility?
Well, for many years, that was all Medi-Cal would participate in paying. You had to be in skilled nursing in order to get any kind of payment towards long-term care. But thanks to a pilot program that's been in existence in California for the last 15 years, I'm going to guess, the assisted living waiver program has opened the doors, and the state has been flooded with applications of people desiring to use Medi-Cal to pay for an assisted living facility.
That is a new concept. Let's go back to what's happening to the senior that would require them to move into a skilled nursing facility, because most seniors want to stay in their own home. So what would force them to leave their home?
Not enough money to pay for in-home care, which is by far the most expensive way of financing long-term care. Usually about $20,000 to $24,000 a month is the cost for in-home care.
That is huge, and that's actually not a surprise. I will share my mother had Alzheimer's disease, felt strongly about staying in her own home, which my brother and I tried to accommodate. But when the bill for 24-hour-a-day care reached $12,000 a month, because this was a few years ago, we decided Mother had to leave her home, whether or not she wanted to. We did not want her to outlive her money. So I know exactly what you mean. So someone with Alzheimer's disease or some kind of dementia may wander, may be awkward sleeping schedules up and down all night long. It's difficult to live with a spouse who perhaps is as old as the one with the dementia, say they're both in their 70s and 80s, frail and elderly. There's often time for the caregiving spouse not to get enough rest.
Yes.
And so the one with the dementia is better in a community, a memory care community, where there is skilled care, where there's people to look after that individual 24 hours a day. And I think about people with strokes, and I think about people who have fallen. When you're lying in the bed recuperating, it's very easy to get what are called pressure sores.
Yes.
So you have to be moved constantly. Every 2 to 3 hours, you need to be turned in the bed to prevent the sores from appearing. That can be very difficult for a frail older spouse to turn, a big heavy husband over in the bed to relieve pressure on that part of the body. In a fall with a wound care, there may be need for an IV medication. So I can see now why some seniors, although they really want to stay in their own homes, they are better cared for in a community. Oh, now if you can afford it, you could have a registered nurse come in to do your IV, perhaps do those analyses, those assessments that you need a skilled nurse to do. But at $80 an hour, which is the going rate for a registered nurse in this area, that adds up pretty quickly. 80 hours a day.
Yes.
$80 a day times 24 hours a day. I think I calculated that to be about $57,000 a month. Not a lot of families can afford that. All right. So where are these best facilities located? Both the skilled nursing and also the assisted living waivers that you mentioned.
Throughout the state of California, you're going to find good and bad skilled nursing facilities, thanks to services that would rate them and monitor their citations, their complaints, the good things that they provide. It's fairly easy to pick a good skilled nursing home from one that is not as up to grade as it should be.
And what do you look for?
I go straight to the websites that rank them. There's a 5-star system because many of the facilities that look good on the outside, or one that has just had a fresh coat of paint, has drastically changed their caregivers, and they have the very lowest of quality of care in their food services and among their nurses and CNAs.
I think you're making a good recommendation when you say go to the website. Those state websites, which will typically talk about the evaluations of the skilled nursing facilities. There are also, I would say, go to the website of the facility itself and look at who owns it.
Sure.
Their staffing. One of the things I've discovered through the years is that facilities that are associated with faith organizations, be they churches or religious groups, typically staff higher than the state requires and do a really good job. There are some goals and objectives purely beyond the profitability measures.
Yes,
for
I would agree. And of course, the best test is just to go in person and take a great big inhale through your nose. If it smells pleasant and good, that's the first big test that a family has to overcome.
Good point. We'll be back in a few moments with more from Craig Smedley and Medi-Cal planning.
You've been listening to The Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews. We'll return right after this.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Carter. The storm that killed at least 8 people in the South over the weekend is bearing down on millions of people in the Northeast. The storm dumping back-to-back tornadoes on tiny Alto, Texas. Police Chief Jeremy Jackson.
It's hard to see my community in the shape it's in.
The storm system is blamed for deaths in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Tornado and thunderstorm warnings and watches are out for parts of Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York. Heavy rain and winds up to 70 miles an hour expected. South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg is officially running for president in 2020. The Democratic mayor making the announcement yesterday in front of a large crowd in the city he governs. Buttigieg raised more than $7 million in the first quarter of 2019 and has placed third in recent weeks in multiple polls of Democratic voters in Iowa. Lisa Carter, NBC News Radio.
Hey guys, this is Andrew Caravella. Just wanted to let you know that KCAA has a new listener line for all of you that have a phone. Now you can listen to KCAA in the grocery store, in the doctor's office, or when you want to pretend you're on the phone with someone just so that creeper will leave you alone. Call 720-835-3099 today and listen to your favorite KCAA radio shows. That number again, 720-835-3099. KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no caller or listener behind.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. KCAA is the only station in the IE that broadcasts on 3 frequencies, so advertisers receive 3 ads for 1 low rate. This makes KCAA a must-buy for every local business. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email ceo@kcaaradio.com.
And now, more of The Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews.
Welcome back. Today I'm talking with Craig Smedley, who's sharing with us the challenge of Medi-Cal planning and how to make that a reality for long-term care. Craig, how can anyone afford to pay for long-term care when we've said that a year in a semi-private room can cost $86,000 a year? A private room costs $97,000 a year, and these are statistics from 2018. I'm a senior, and I joke with my friends that we should have lots of children and be very nice to them so that they'll pay for our care when we need it.
And hope they can afford to do that.
Yes,
which most cannot.
Educate them very well. We might have long-term care insurance, although that is getting to be more difficult to buy. There are only, I think, about 15 companies left that sell it. But what other options are there? Are there anything else that a senior and that families can do?
If I can, long-term care insurance. The biggest problem I've seen with that is that there's a 90-day exclusion period. It's sold with the idea that Medicare will pay for your first 90 to 100 days, but when someone goes into the nursing home, they're evaluated after 20 days and told, you're no longer progressing. You have to go home now or start paying privately because your insurance won't pay for it any longer. Nobody wants to pay out of pocket, so they go home. As soon as that happens, that 90-day exclusion with a long-term care insurance starts all over again. Very rarely will people get to the point of having a consecutive 90 days in hospital and skilled nursing that will trigger the payout of a long-term care insurance policy.
Oh my. Okay, well, there's a subject for another day, isn't it, to talk about the ins and outs of long-term care insurance.
Bottom line then, we'll just go straight to how people can afford it. Medi-Cal. You qualify for Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal will pay for the long-term care, which is right. The government should be responsible for those that have paid into the system to have the system be there to support them and to help them. I've often said that the 3 biggest promises that were made when President Roosevelt cut the New Deal with citizens is your Social Security will never be taxed, you'll never be left impoverished, and you'll always be kept safe. Well, Social Security is now taxed for many senior citizens. And because of the cost of skilled nursing, many seniors are left impoverished and sadly are not in safe environments, even in their own home. Everyone deserves the right to be able to be safe, to feel at peace, and feel security.
You make a good point. One of the other distressing facts that I have learned is the number one complaint received by long-term care ombudsman. And maybe we should explain what an ombudsman is. That is typically staff, or in many cases volunteers, associated with the county offices of aging and the state offices of aging, who are contacts or conduits to these skilled nursing facilities. The number one complaint is involuntary discharge. And if you don't know what involuntary discharge means, it's being kicked out for your inability to pay your bill at skilled nursing. So families being quite desperate because they've got to come up with the money, or they go back home. But here's the situation. 46% of all the women in this country over the age of 75 who live alone have a median income of $18,250 a year. That's almost half of the women in the country who are living alone, who are older and frail and neediest. And I would imagine that $18,250 is their spousal share of their husband's Social Security. He is passed, and that's all they have to live on. So they really need your Medi-Cal planning to qualify for being able to live in long-term care, although most of them will want to stay home. And if they do try to stay in their own home, the annual rate of a non-medical caregiver at 40 hours a week across a year is just under $50,000 a year. Well, the 75-year-old widower can't afford that either. So family and friends are picking up the pieces and trying to help. The next door neighbor who's young runs over after work to see if, her next door neighbor who's 75 and needs help has something to eat for supper. Have you run into that, Craig?
Constantly. And these are sweet people that are providing an hour, maybe 2 hours of care, but it's 24-hour care that's needed. That's why it's so important to have them safe in a 24-hour care facility, so you're not worried about them when you're at work, when you're on the road, or when you're trying to sleep. That's got to be a big panic and a big worry for families.
Are there any other options for families?
Unfortunately, in our country, because of the costs that are not covered, your only option is to go through all of your assets until they're completely depleted. Then you'll qualify for Medi-Cal, but may not end up in the best of care facilities. My hope is to help families to meet the needs and make sure that their loved ones are safe. They have the very best facility to be in, and it's affordable for them. They don't burn through all of their cash reserves. There's something to leave a spouse at home, and the spouse has the right to receive something to live on after their ill spouse has passed away. Children also should have an inheritance. If mom and dad knew what they were going to face in just a few short years, most likely they would have gifted all of their assets to their children years ago.
The options might be around rationing care. That doesn't seem to work. If you've been in the military, you may qualify for veterans benefits. But for most people, they're exactly in the situation that you describe. And there's nothing that feels quite right about having a spouse to be homeless after the house has been sold and all the money has been spent on care for the sick spouse who passed first.
Yeah. Let's go back to that idea of rationing care.
Okay.
The worst thing that you can do for someone that has dementia or Alzheimer's is have a change of caregivers among the family come in either to their home or have them go to their children's home, spend 1 month, and then go to the next child. It's very, very distressing for them to constantly have this change.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
Time and place issues, very
Yes.
confusing. That's an excellent point. Thank you for mentioning that. Craig, how can you be reached for more information? If any of our listeners want to have a meeting with you, want to hear more, have a question about how Medi-Cal planning can help them, what should they do? How do they reach you?
Most reach me through the phone, 951-600-7633. My email is very easy as well, Smedley, my last name, cb@gmail.com.
Let's repeat all of that again. Say your phone number again.
951-600-7633. Email Smedley, Smedley, cb@gmail.com.
So that is Smedley, Smedley, and then C as in Charlie, B as in
Baker.
Barbara.
Yep,
Okay.
Barbara.
At
Yes.
gmail.com. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on your show, Barbara. It's a privilege and honor to be with you.
Well, thank you, Craig. I value the information. I'm sure our guests do. And to learn more about long-term care, go to Amazon.com and look at my book titled Old Age, The Paradox of Physical Decline and Spiritual Greatness by Barbara Matthews. I hope you'll join us next week. In the coming weeks, we are going to cover topics like scams and how to avoid them. How do you find a trusted caregiver? Next week, we're talking about Parkinson's disease. We'll be talking about Alzheimer's disease. How do you know if it's simple forgetting or if you have a real problem? Can referral agencies help save you time and money? And how can you avoid a fall and stay out of a nursing home so you don't have to deal with this Medi-Cal planning that we've talked about today? Thank you. Appreciate it, Craig.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Age of Being 2020 with Barbara Matthews on KCAA. Join us each week as we explore successful aging, helpful services, and simplifying the complicated with practical solutions each week at this time right here on NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside.